Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar where we are going to be talking about preparing for fall 2021 admissions here at the Jindal School at the University of Texas at Dallas. I'm Monica Powell. I'm the Senior Associate Dean and Graduate Dean here in the Jindal School, and I am joined by a fabulous entourage of folks who are going to answer your questions. So first, let me introduce our team. Joining us today is Corina Cantua. She is our director of our Jindal School advising operation. You'll all get to know her really well while you're here in school. And then we have two members from our International Student Services Office that will be joining us. One is Sarah Koo, and the other one is Elizabeth Walker. They are both associate directors of what we call the ISSO, and they're going to be helping to tackle those challenging international questions that are really important. So let's look at our agenda today. Well, we are going to be covering a variety of categories of questions. Corina is going to be addressing your important application questions. Some of those can be very complicated and confusing, and so we want to address the most popular questions that we get asked. Secondly, our team from the International Student Services Office, they're going to address the very complex international student questions, the questions you have around I-20s and how visas work and how you can make sure to navigate the system here in the US in a very easy and delicate way. We're going to address scholarship questions because we know that all of you are very interested in applying for scholarships, along with program questions, and I'll address those two categories. And then, of course, most important, the stars of our show, which are you guys. We want to make sure that we address all of your unique and very specific questions as well. So we're going to be making time at the end for you to enter questions into the chat function and be able to get a specific answer to an important question. So without further ado, why don't we get started? Corina, you want to take the show away and answer those all important application questions?
Thank you, Dr. Powell. I'm definitely happy to be here as well to share any information that we can about the application process. So I'm ready to get started with some questions.
What is the fall 2021 application deadline, and what is the difference between the early and regular application deadline?
Sure. So when you look at our admission deadlines, you're going to see two dates listed for each of the terms. For example, for the fall semester, you're going to see that January 15th is listed as the early application deadline, and then you're going to see May 1st listed as the regular application deadline. You are more than welcome, if you're ready, to apply by the January 15th deadline, but you do not have to. It's not required, and it does not impact the opportunity that you have to be reviewed for admission. The early application deadline is really more important for our PhD candidates. For our master's applications, we will be reviewing all throughout the spring months and into the summer, so you can apply even after the January 15th deadline using the regular application deadline of May 1st.
Do you offer a Gmat and GRE waiver for fall 2021? And how do you apply for the Gmat and GRE waiver?
Sure. Yes, we do offer a Gmat GRE waiver. If you look on our admission site, you're going to see that the Gmat GRE waiver has some criteria that you need to meet in order to be waived. One of the standard criteria, for example, is if you're a UTD student who's graduating with at least a 3.5 GPA, or if you're graduating from a university that has AACSB accreditation and you have a 3.6 GPA, or perhaps you have a doctorate degree. All those would allow you to be waived from the Gmat GRE. Now, during this challenging time, we are also considering Gmat GRE waivers as a result of COVID-19 as well. Now, for any of these, all you have to do to let us know that you want to be considered for a review without the Gmat GRE is to send us an email to jsomgradvising@utdallas.edu so that we can then move your application forward to the review committee. I do want to make sure that I let you know that everything else must already be submitted. So all of your other application documents have to be in before we can actually move forward with the application. But if that's the case and you're ready to be reviewed without Gmat GRE, you want that consideration, just send us an email at jsomgradvising@utdallas.edu.
Do I need to submit official transcripts and test scores with my admissions application?
So no, we can actually use unofficial copies of your transcripts and test scores to review your admission application. If admitted and prior to registration, you will have to submit your official copies because we do have to have those on file. But for the review process itself, we can use unofficial. So unofficial documents is okay.
Do you offer a waiver for the English proficiency requirement?
Yes, we actually do. If your native country's primary language is English, or if you've earned a degree through an instruction and examination in English, you will be waived from the English proficiency requirement. So yes.
Can I apply to more than one program? If so, how?
Yes, you can actually apply to more than one program using the same application system. When you log in and you start your application, you will notice that there's some standard questions that are asked from you, like your name, your educational background, facts that are not going to be different regardless of what program you apply to. All of that information is going to be gathered. Then you will be asked what program or programs you want to apply for. And so within the same system, you're going to be able to choose more than one program and submit an application that will be reviewed either within the School of Management because you're applying to multiple programs within the School of Management, or even across UT Dallas if you're considering other graduate programs at UTD.
How long does it take to receive an admission decision after applying?
So once we receive all of the documents that are required for to review an application, your file is going to be sent over to the review committee for a decision. They're the ones who are going to take a look at your file to grant you a decision. But then we also need to send it over to our main admissions office for a final review of your documents and for them to actually post an official decision for your account. That's what you're going to eventually see on your account. So this process usually takes about 2 weeks, but we make it our goal to make sure that we get it done in half that time because we know that it's very important for you to get a decision as fast as possible.
What is the profile of the average admitted student?
Sure. So every program has a unique profile, and you can actually learn about it by visiting the program web pages. There you can review the makeup of each entering class, including the GPAs, Gmat GRE, and work experience, among many other details. So I think since we've covered all the questions on this PowerPoint, I think that we are good to go. We can actually proceed to our international student considerations.
Thank you, Corina. My name is Elizabeth Walker, and I'm an Associate Director in the International Student and Scholar Services Office.
First question we have, how do I contact ISSO?
If you are a prospective student and you want to contact the ISSO and speak to our prospective student advisor, you can send an email to isssoprospective@utdallas.edu, or you can go onto the advising page of our website and schedule an appointment through Microsoft Teams.
What is the Icomet portal?
Once you have been admitted to UT Dallas, you should have access to the Icomet portal. You can see links to it on our website, and that is where you can submit an electronic request for an I-20.
Once I'm admitted, how do I apply for my I-20?
So once you're admitted, you will go to our website and you can see instructions to log into Icomet using your net ID and password. Then when you are in there, look on the left-hand menu, choose prospective students, and click the new Admit F1 student e-form. And that is how you will request your I-20.
How should I prepare for a visa appointment?
So once you have received your I-20, you'll be able to schedule your visa appointment. To prepare for your visa appointment, you need to make sure that you have all of the required documents, such as your passport, your I-20, your proof of financial support, proof of ties to your home country, proof of intent to return to your home country, etc. And then you will need to be prepared to answer the visa officer's questions, such as why have you chosen to come to UTD, why this academic program, and how does obtaining this degree fit into your career goals back in your home country.
What are some common mistakes that international students make when applying for their I-20 or when they have their visa appointment?
When applying for an I-20, I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but students do submit a variety of financial support documents. Some of those documents we can accept and some of them we cannot. Once they have been submitted, an advisor will review the documents and let you know if any of them need to be updated or if we can or cannot accept certain documents. For the visa appointment, I would say that a common mistake would be not preparing effectively and considering all of the questions that the visa officer might ask. Students need to be confident, honest, and be fully prepared to explain, again, why they want to come to UTD and how obtaining this degree fits into their career goals.
What do I do if my visa is denied?
If your visa is denied, and you choose to reapply for your visa, you can schedule another visa appointment either at the same consulate or at another U.S. consulate or embassy in your home country. Two key components would be to look at why your visa was denied and to make sure that you have new evidence to present to the visa officer at the next appointment. You can also reach out to the ISSO to help you prepare for your upcoming visa appointment.
Am I eligible for on-campus jobs as an international student?
So, as an international student, you are allowed to enter the United States up to 30 days before your I-20 start date. And once you have entered the United States, you are eligible to begin working on campus during those 30 days and when the semester starts. And while school is in session, you're able to work up to 20 hours a week and up to 40 hours a week during school breaks.
When will I be eligible for CPT?
So CPT is curricular practical training, which is off-campus paid internships. In most degree programs, well, in all degree programs, you have to be in F1 status to be eligible for CPT authorization. For most degree programs, you have to have been in the United States in F1 status for 2 long semesters. And for certain programs in Json, you're eligible after you have completed 18 credit hours.
Thank you so much for answering all of those international student common questions that we received. And now we'll move on to Dr. Powell for information about scholarship.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth, so much for those answers to those critical international student questions. So now we're going to move to the ever popular category of questions around the topic of scholarships. So Norma, you want to throw the first question my way?
Sure. What types of scholarship are available as a new student and as a continuing student?
So that's a great question. So any and all information about scholarships can be found by going to the Jindal School's homepage, home webpage. So if you go to that webpage and you look in the top navigation bar, you're going to see the word scholarships. You click on that and it takes you to the scholarship website, and then you click on graduate. And that's where you're able to learn all about the different scholarship options that we have. But to answer your specific question, Norma, an entering incoming brand new student can apply for what we call a DES or Dean's Excellence Scholarship. That is a merit-based award where the committee will use all of your application materials that you submitted along with a Gmat and GRE score, and they will make a decision about how your application compares to the competitive pool to determine who the scholarship winners are. If you are a continuing student, you can also apply for a Dean's Excellence Award, again, merit based on performance, and you can apply for donor-based awards. And all of that information, along with a pretty robust FAQ, frequently asked questions section, is available on that website that I described.
Am I eligible to apply for scholarship if my Gmat or GRE was waived?
Wow, Norma, that's the most popular question during 2020 for us. So while the admissions committee will consider an applicant for admission based on the waiving of the Gmat and GRE score, meaning you could get admitted without having submitted it, in the scholarship arena, that is not true. If you want to be considered for a scholarship, you must submit a Gmat or GRE. So just because it was waived doesn't mean that the scholarship committee will also waive it. You have to submit one in order to be considered.
What does the scholarship committee look for when awarding scholarship?
So we look at every application from a holistic perspective, which means we don't make a decision based off of your undergraduate GPA or how much work experience you have. We're looking that you meet the criteria for the scholarship. So we're looking at everything in your application materials. So we're looking at your resume, we're looking at your undergraduate transcript, we're looking at GMAT and GRE scores, we're looking at total work experience. It's a holistic process where we're looking at everything. And this is a really important consideration for you to think about. In one calendar year, you might be very competitive for a scholarship. It doesn't always mean that you'll be competitive because you are competing against all of the other students that have applied in that cycle. So you need to keep in mind, you're competing against all those other people that have applied. And the committee is really, really thorough. We look at every candidate from top to bottom. It is an exhausting process. I think the other thing that I just want to add here is that scholarships are awarded kind of on a rolling basis. So we will start awarding fall 2021 scholarships just in a few days, and then we will award them periodically over, it might be a 7-day gap, a 10-day gap. You can always log into the scholarship portal to check your status. And I think it's really important for you to remember that if you applied early, but you haven't gotten a decision, it could be because you aren't as competitive as the rest of the pool. It could mean that you get a scholarship later in the cycle, but it could be that you might be waiting to have a decision rendered by the committee.
Am I eligible for in-state tuition if I'm awarded scholarship?
So another important question that prospects will ask us. So most of the DES awards are a tuition waiver scholarship. Just so you know, the Jindal School is limited in the number of in-state tuition waivers that we can give based on a scholarship award. So generally speaking, what is really important is to look at your award letter. The award letter will tell you if an in-state tuition award is also being given along with the scholarship. And I think it's also important for you just to remember that the timing of when you get that decision really varies from student to student.
Thank you, Dr. Powell, for all that information on scholarship. Now we'll move on. How many credit hours does the program take to complete?
So generally speaking, our specialty master's programs are 36 credit hours in length, and our MBA is 53. So that's a big difference in terms of total credit hours. Now, how long it takes to complete the degree is a whole different question. So generally speaking, students that come into our 36 credit hour master's program, that's like a master's in finance, a master's in innovation, a master's in information technology, a master's in business analytics, a master's degree. Generally, most full-time students will take 2 full years. So in other words, they are doing 2 long semesters each academic year. So if you enroll in fall of 2021, you would go fall spring, and generally that first summer, which would be the summer of 2022, you would do an internship if your degree program requires an internship. And then you will then turn around and go fall of 2022 and graduate in spring of 2023. Most of our full-time students will take 2 full years. And of course, you could complete the 36 credit hours in 1 calendar year, where you take 12 credit hours in fall, 12 credit hours in spring, and 12 credit hours in summer. That is a hefty proposition, and most of our students do not want to do that because you miss on the opportunity to get substantial internship experience, which is often the component that leads to a full-time job for our U.S. citizens and an H-1B opportunity for our international students. So, I think that there are some positive benefits by doing it in a shorter amount of time, because one thing you're going to notice when you look at our tuition schedules is that the more credit hours you take in a semester, the less you pay per credit hour. but that always is not always the best solution, especially if you want to get internship experience so that you have an opportunity to do that slow interview with an employer and land that full-time opportunity before you graduate.
What is the estimated cost for the entire program?
So this is an important question that we want all prospects to consider, but it's a bit of a complicated question to answer, Norma. And the reason is because it depends upon how many credit hours you take in a particular semester. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to put into the chat for this webinar the link to a couple of important websites on campus. One of those is the estimated tuition calculator, where you'll be able to, as an international student, put in how many hours you're going to take each semester, and it's going to give you a projected cost for your tuition. The other thing we're going to put a link in the chat to is a link to the tuition and fees website so that you can actually look at what the total cost of the tuition is. So generally speaking, without a scholarship, a student will pay double of the in-state cost. That's just generally speaking. It really depends upon how many courses you're taking per semester, because I already mentioned the more courses you take in a semester, the lower cost per credit hour. But remember, a full-time graduate student is taking 9 credit hours, which is basically 3 classes. So you don't want to overload yourself by taking 15 credit hours. That is a big load for a master's student.
Who should I contact if I have questions about the degree curriculum or career outlook for the program that I am interested in?
So we have the most fabulous program support of any graduate business school in America. So the person that you would want to contact is the program director or the program support individual for the specific degree that you are interested in. And so if you want to ask who that might be for your program, you'll be able to put it in the chat and we'll tell you exactly who it is and what email it is that you need to send it to. But generally speaking, if you are an applicant and you've already applied, you have likely already gotten an email from your program director, so you probably already know who that is. But they are the individuals that can talk to you about the career implications of this concentration versus this track, or what kind of jobs will you have if you go down this road versus that road. They'll talk to you about the differences in the various streams that you can choose, whether you're in the ITM program, the analytics program, the finance program, whatever your program of choice is. You really want to do what we tell students all the time, which is begin with the end in mind. Think about what kind of job do I want when I'm done with this degree, and which one of those tracks is going to best prepare me for that job. And so if you go out and you find a job description and you say, I want to do this, take that job description to your program director or your academic support coordinator and say, I want to do this. Which of the tracks should I choose or consider? They're going to be able to give you the very best advice.
Do I have to choose a specialization or track while I'm in the program?
No, you don't. That's a really good question and not often asked question. Sometimes students want to be very general. They want to sort of create their own kind of degree, taking the courses that they have an interest in or the courses where they might have deficit knowledge. So you don't have to choose a specialization or track. But I can tell you from a career perspective, when an employer is looking at you, if you are going for a very specialized type of job or internship, it's going to be to your advantage to have a specialty area or a concentration or a track. So be very thoughtful about whether or not you have one or not, and understand the consequences of not having one may X you out of consideration for a job where a specialty might be required.
Is it possible to add a second degree after I'm admitted and once I'm at UT Dallas?
So we love that, because here at UT Dallas, we have a ton of graduate students who started an MS program, a specialty degree, and they add on the MBA, and they're still able to complete that MBA within the 2 full years that they're in the MS program. And they're also able to complete it because some of the credit hours count toward both degrees. So you basically complete both degrees for fewer credit hours than if you had taken them separately. So that's a huge time and financial benefit to doing a double degree. It also helps you kind of sell yourself in the career world if you have a double degree. You know, we see some students who get business analytics, but they're very entrepreneurially minded. They want to do a startup. So they'll combine an MS in business analytics with an innovation and entrepreneurship degree. You'll see a lot of students will combine their MS specialty degree with an MBA degree. So yes, you can add a second degree, but there is one caveat, and the caveat is that you have to meet the admissions criteria for that second degree to gain admission to that second program. But it is a great career advantage, and we have tons and tons of students that do that.
What type of career support does Json offer?
So we have a full-fledged career management center here in the Jindal School. It's really pretty amazing. We have 12 full-time staff. All 12 of the people that work in that area all have very specific industry experience where they have been in charge of campus recruiting for a major company, or they've been in charge of human resources for a company. So we have experienced talent acquisition people that are guiding our career management opportunity here in the Jindal School. So if you are an incoming master's student, you will find that you have a program prerequisite where you're expected to take what we call MAS 6102. It is professional development. And in that course, we help get you ready to look for an internship or prepare for your final job really day one, because you need to take that MAS 6102 professional development in the first 12 credit hours. So you generally take it your very first semester. And that course ensures that your resume is ready for production and to get out there to employers. We make sure that you understand how to network and to job search the American way if you are an international student. We help you with the all-important guidance to help you with the interview process. And the Career Management Center offers, 150 different career events where they bring in employers each month. So you will be very happy with the experience you get in the career management arena. All of our degree programs also are widely supported by very robust student organizations. This is going to be one difference that you see between the graduate programs here at the Jindal School versus other graduate programs at other universities. Generally, all the action in terms of student organizations happens at the undergraduate level at most institutions. But here in our school, we have 70 plus student organizations. Almost all of them are wholly focused on graduate students, and they all have a spin to prepare you for the workforce. So they are bringing in employer panels and alumni panels and mock interview sessions and resume workshops. And so you will get an abundant supply of career support, both from the Career Management Center and student organizations. I tell students all the time, you know, if you focus solely on getting a 4.0, you haven't gotten half of what you've paid for. You really need to engage in the co-curricular side of the experience so you can take advantage of networking with employers, joining a case competition that might get you exposure at your dream company. Those are all really important things, and that's part of the experience that we offer here at the Jindal School. Wow, so we already got through all of those questions, Norma. That was a huge number of questions. And while those answers I think are really important, what really matters to us is all of your questions. So I hope that some of this conversation between Corina and Elizabeth and myself with the robust questions from Norma has generated a set of new questions for you. So we hope you're putting those into the chat, and we are going to spend some time in this next section answering those questions. If by chance you think of a question later and go, oops, I wish I'd asked that question, you can always send an email to jindal@utdallas.edu, and we'll be more than glad to get an answer back to you. So I guess, Norma, it's time for the chat and to answer their specific questions.
Thank you, Dr. Powell. We do have questions. Let me go ahead and pull up the first one. So the first one is actually a question that I have because I realized that when we were talking about scholarship, I didn't ask you this question, so I apologize for that. But what is the fall 2021 scholarship deadline?
Great question, Norma. So the official deadline for fall 2021 is May the 1st. And that isn't a negotiable deadline. So you got to get it in by May 1st or you have missed the opportunity to apply for a scholarship.
So it looks like some of our students have seen the course modes that we've been offering during this time. And so the next question has to do with that. This person actually asks, will there be a hybrid mode for fall 2021 as well? But I'm guessing you can maybe talk about like what type of course modes we will have for fall.
You know, that is a terrific question. And to be quite honest, we have not announced the official set of class modes for fall 2021. It is our hope and our expectation that life will return to normal in fall of 2021. Everybody will be back on campus and we'll be competing for parking spaces and we'll be back in a face-to-face traditional classroom mode. But there have been a lot of silver linings that have come from COVID-19 as dastardly as this virus has been globally. And some of those are that many of the technologies and the ways in which to distribute content and curriculum that we've had to move toward because of COVID, many of those things will prevail in our course instruction for fall of 2021. I imagine we'll have a few more courses that go hybrid because it's an efficient use of space, and faculty like that notion of being able to deliver a lecture followed by bringing kids together in the classroom for an engagement exercise. But we haven't officially announced what the modes of instruction will be for fall. But if I were guessing, there'll probably be a few more remote classes and a few more online classes, but there will be a giant parade to get us back into the classroom. You know, graduate business education is a lot about networking. There is a lot of value in the people that sit in that classroom with you. And I've been in this industry almost 35 years, and I can't even begin to tell you the number of stories of students who had a colleague in class who sat one row up and 3 seats over, who played a part 5 years after they graduated in helping a classmate land a job at the company that they worked for. So networking is a big part of graduate business education, and students are clamoring to be back in the classroom to take advantage of that class engagement and that networking opportunities. But as soon as we know the course modes of instruction, there will be a formal announcement from the university.
So we talked earlier with Corina about official scores for the application, which she mentioned. You can have unofficial scores for the application. Is that correct?
That is correct. And what I'd like to do, Corina, would you talk a little bit for our attendees this morning about, okay, if you get admitted with unofficial scores, when do you have to have those official documents here? Because students sometimes get confused about that.
Sure thing. Yes. So usually what happens is once you are officially admitted to the program, you will then see on your to-do list or your items that you have to submit official copies of all of the documents that you may have submitted unofficial copies for. And before you can actually register in your first semester, we will need those copies in our system. So my recommendation is always, if you are then officially admitted to the program, at that point, work on getting those official copies to the university so that we can go ahead and work on clearing your holds so that you can then start your registration process.
So talking about official documents, Dr. Powell, the one exception to that, if they apply for scholarship, do they need to have official GMAT or GRE scores in the system?
Oh, I am so glad whoever typed in that question and asked it. That is a really, really important question. The scholarship committee will not review an application file for a scholarship with an unofficial score. You must submit an official score report with your GMAT or GRE score to be considered by the scholarship committee. Now, most scores today, they're not sent to the university with an official piece of paper. They come in electronically from the test provider, and you go on their website, you ask that the scores be sent. Generally, there is a charge for that, but they come in electronically. It's not the official paper copy that they mail to you. It is the electronic official copy that comes in. So a lot of students will get frustrated and say, but you know, you got my unofficial score and I went through the admissions process and I got admitted and that unofficial score is in the system. Why can't the scholarship committee review that? But that's a rule. We have to have an official score sent electronically for the scholarship committee to consider your scholarship application.
Is there a word limit for the essay question? And is there any certain document format that they need to follow before uploading for that personal statement?
I didn't mean to chuckle, but I find that to be a funny question because, you know, students sometimes think that it needs to be a 20-page paper. It doesn't. One single piece of paper, 500 words, where you are addressing, you know, why are you wanting to get this degree? How is this degree going to impact your life and your career? So generally speaking, you need to do it in a traditional, you know, Word document file, double space it so you make it easier for the admissions committee to read it, and don't type it as if it is a text, because it is a legitimate written document and you want to do a really good job. So proofread it, make sure you don't have any typos, and tell us about yourself and why it is that you think that you're a good candidate, and how you will benefit from getting whatever degree of choice it is that you've picked out.
So we've had a couple of attendees ask about, you know, the fact that we do offer GMAT and GRE waivers for consideration, but will having a GMAT or GRE score increase their chances of being admitted?
Having as much information as we can about an applicant always is an advantage in any admissions process at any school. So anything that you can provide us, including a GMAT or GRE score, that is going to make the case to the committee that you can be successful in graduate school, always plays to your advantage. So I encourage a student, you know, a lot of people have what I consider to be an irrational fear associated with taking a GMAT or GRE. I get it. I took those tests, and you know, and I don't like those standardized tests myself, but I can tell you that the preparation that you go through in preparing and studying for one of those tests is great practice for getting into the mindset of being successful in graduate school. You're going to get tested in graduate school. You're going to have to prepare, and there's no better time than the present to do that. So I would encourage everybody to sit down and see what they're capable of in those tests. There's some great review classes that are out there, some great study guides that are out there. So don't be afraid of those tests. They've been used for decades and decades to help admissions committees determine somebody's ability to be successful or the projected ability of somebody. So I wouldn't run away from them, but we're living in a weird time and getting a test is difficult. And that's why our school is, you know, because of COVID, still offering GMAT and GRE waivers. But yeah, if it's additional good information, yeah, it will help in terms of an admission.
I'm going to go ahead and address the next question to Elizabeth. Will I get my I-20 only after I have submitted my financial proof? Oh, I think you're on mute. There we go.
Sorry about. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Sorry about that. So once you have been admitted to UTD, you can apply for your I-20 document that you will need to get your visa. You will use the Icomet new student e-form to request that I-20, and you must submit adequate financial documents in order to be issued an I-20. If you're not sure how much financial support you should show, you can go to our website and it shows you the various types of financial support documents we will accept and what is required for your specific degree level, and considers if you are receiving any funding from UT Dallas.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Dr. Powell, are scholarships given out on the basis of first applied?
So that's a good question. We award scholarships on a rolling basis. So what does that mean when we say on a rolling basis? So we made some scholarship awards yesterday. We looked at the applicants in the file. We looked at the ones that we felt were worthy candidates, and we collectively made a decision to offer some scholarships yesterday. Next week, we'll look at all of the applications all over again, and those that are the most competitive, who exceed our criteria and the limits that we're looking at in the awarding of scholarships at this time, and we'll make more awards. So it's not a first come, first served basis. It's first come, most deserved basis, meaning that the most competitive are the ones that are awarded first. And of course, as any institution, there's always a limited number of scholarship funds. Eventually, you run out of them. So that can impact. But I encourage everybody to apply. I encourage everybody to submit a competitive test score so that your application be considered along with all of the other application materials. And then you're going to get a sense of how competitive your file is based on how long you might wait. Unfortunately, it means the least competitive candidates for scholarship are the last ones to be informed that they didn't receive a scholarship. So keep that in mind.
Continuing the conversation about scholarship, would you be able to provide the average GRE or GMAT score by the past students who have been awarded scholarship?
Oh, that's a tough question because it kind of varies by program, and it varies by year. Some years are so uber competitive, and some years are less competitive. So there have been years where the average might have been a 315, a 316. There are other years where the average might have been a 310 on the GRE side. On the GMAT side, there are a lot of years where it's 670, 680, where it is awarded. But that's a difficult question because, again, we said it earlier in the presentation, you're competing against that pool of candidates. So it really varies from year to year and can swing quite wildly. But remember, a scholarship is not based on a single variable like a GMAT or a GRE score. It's looking at a lot of other things. Your work experience, your undergraduate GPA. It's looking at, your undergraduate degree discipline, your readiness for that particular curriculum. It's looking at the recommendations and your essay and statement of purpose. So, a score has an impact, but it's not the sole decider. It's just a piece of the consideration puzzle.
So this person wants to know, they want to try to get a Gmat or GRE waiver, but do they need to pay the application fee before they can request a review for the Gmat or GRE waiver?
So Corina, do you want to tackle that one?
Sure. Yeah, so when you submit your application, you are required to submit all of your application items, and it does include that application fee. So whenever we get your email, if you want to proceed to move forward with your review without a Gmat GRE, you can email us, and then we would look at your file to see how complete it is. We may still send it over to the review committee so they can start looking at your file. As always, we don't want to delay it if at all possible, but you do have to submit that application fee for us to be able to finalize your application review.
Norma?
Yes.
So we often get asked whether or not we have application fee waivers. And so I don't think anybody's asked that question today, but UT Dallas does not offer application fee waivers. So I just want to put that out there in case somebody is thinking about asking that question.
So this person says they submitted their application with a GRE score, but they wanted to know if they can still request a waiver given their strong academic and work experience.
That's a tough question. It's here. You know, if it is a difficult score, you know, the committee is still going to look at it holistically. So so you have to let it go through the process. Now that it is submitted, retracting it out of the process is difficult. So Corina, do you want to chime in on that as well? We can't ignore what's in the file, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you're correct, Dr. Powell. So all of your application documents, they're put in one file. You have one student applicant file, and all of that is sent over to the review committee. There's not a way for us to kind of remove pieces from your file. It just becomes part of your profile. So they will review it, and it would be part of the review. So I agree with Dr. Powell. Let's see, once you have it submitted, let the review committee take a look. Let's see what their decision is before you panic, you know, and try to figure out, maybe I need to do it differently.
Corina, while you are on screen, could you talk again about the timeline of receiving an admission decision?
Sure. So typically, once your application file is complete, so that means that all of your documents are in, unofficial copies are okay, all of your documents are in, we then immediately send your completed file over to the review committee. Once it goes past from them, it goes to a university-wide review, and they just double check all of your documents, make sure that everything is as it needs to be before you can then have the official decision in your system. Usually that time that is allocated is about 2 weeks from the moment that your file is complete to the moment that you actually see an official decision in the system for you. But what we try to do is, as soon as your file is complete, we try to push it as much as possible so that we can cut down that 2-week period down to, our goal is always half, you know, just within a week. Let's try to push it within a week so that you can get a decision as quickly as possible.
Perfect. Let me see here. Sorry about that.
Norma,
Monica,
let me make a comment really quickly for all of our attendees this morning while you're looking for that next set of questions that our attendees may be asking. You know, as you're thinking about graduate schools, you know, I know that all of us that are on this panel this morning, we're quite biased and real cheerleaders for the University of Texas at Dallas. But I just want to share with everybody that this is a very unique place. You can apply to a lot of graduate programs in America, and you may never have a one-on-one conversation with a senior associate dean or graduate dean, or the director of our admissions operation, or a key person in our international student and scholars office, or an academic program director. And we really pride ourselves here on really caring about each and every applicant and each and every student. So we want you to reach out to the academic degree programs. Let us answer your questions as you move through this process. Don't sit out there and be frustrated not having the answer. We really are seriously committed to helping every student that has a concern, a question, a query, or a doubt. So, you know, test us and let us help you as you're trying to make a really big decision about where you're going to invest your time and your energy and your money to advance your life.
So we provided them with the tuition estimate links that you had mentioned earlier, but somebody was wondering, what's the difference between the guaranteed and variable rate?
Oh gosh, that's a really complicated question. Norma, I think I want to punt to Corina. It's basically setting your tuition rate over a period of time. Corina, can you answer that better than I can? Because I'm not sure I can explain it so well.
Sure, I can give it a shot. But yes, it is basically two different tuition plans. You decide as soon as you're admitted to the program, you will get information about it. There's a lot of information on the website about the differences between one and the other. But essentially, if you opt in for the guaranteed rates, that means that your tuition plan, if there's an increase in tuition by UTD, if you're under the guaranteed plan, your particular specific tuition would not change, and it's valid for 12 consecutive semesters. The variable rate, so if you decide to keep the variable rate, that would then change. So if you're under guaranteed, you're going to remain the same even if UTD's tuition changes. But if you're under the variable rate, you would change. Your tuition rate would change along with UTD changing. So so it kind of depends. A lot of times you just want to take a look at how long you will be at UTD to determine which rate would work better for you. But the Office of the Bursar has a lot of information and details on their website about how often the plan changes, what it means currently, what's the difference. But it really is the potential of an increase later that wouldn't impact you if you choose the guaranteed rate.
And you have to make a choice.
You do have to make a choice.
You have
correct.
to make a choice because your bill is generated based on the choice you make. So you can't just wait around because tuition will come due and they won't generate a bill until they have that information.
So these people, a few people have asked about bringing their official documents with them when they arrive in the U.S. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. Sometimes that gives you a greater sense of security, not putting them in the mail and having a chance of them getting lost. But yes, you can bring those with you, and then you can contact us at jindal@utdallas.edu. We'll tell them where you can hand deliver those so that those can be entered into the system.
I would like to just add real quick, you could definitely do that, but if it is possible for you to submit them, what's going to happen if you bring them with you, that your hold for those documents is going to be on your account, and it's not going to be released until those documents are processed. So that means that there's going to be a delay in your registration, right? You won't be able to start registering until those holds clear. So depending on when you arrive, if you arrive with plenty of time, that may be a non-issue. You submit your documents, they get processed, you can get registered. No problem. But if the timeline of your arrival and the beginning of the semester is going to be pretty tight, if you bring those documents with you at that time to submit them, then that's going to be even tighter. So just to give yourself a little bit more of a breathing room, if you are able to submit them ahead of time, there's an electronic way sometimes that you can even submit your documents, then that's the best case scenario. But I definitely understand sometimes you may just want to bring them with you. It's okay. Just remember there may be some processing time needed there before you can actually register in coursework.
Corina, that's such an important point that you've made because classes, the closer you get to the semester beginning, classes fill. So you do have a little bit less choice in terms of the class options. So I think that's a really valid consideration for an incoming student.
Are new incoming students eligible for teaching assistant or research assistant roles?
So generally speaking, and this is an interesting difference between the Jindal School and maybe other graduate schools in America. Generally, our faculty want to hire continuing students into teaching assistantship positions. They want to see how students perform in classes so that they have the best talented, successful graduate students who are being their TAs for a class that they've already taken. So it is pretty rare for a brand new incoming student to be a teaching assistant. The great majority of those roles are given to continuing students.
So I have a couple.
There are campus jobs that new students who are arriving in the U.S. are eligible to work on campus if you are an international student, and so you are able to apply for those jobs through Handshake, which is a portal, a career portal.
I have a couple questions about the I-20, so I'm going to ask those to Elizabeth. The first one has to do with the financial documents. Is a bank letter sufficient for financial documents?
Yes, a student can submit a bank letter or, well, it's preferable if it's a bank statement. Whether it's a bank letter or a bank statement, it should be on the bank's letterhead. It should be signed by a bank official. It should have the account holder's name and the date it was issued. As long as it was issued within the past 12 months, we will accept it.
Will the students receive an electronic copy of the I-20 or a physical copy?
That's a great question. These days, since many of us are working from home, the Department of State is accepting electronic copies of I-20s for students' visa applications, and Customs and Border Protection is accepting electronic I-20s at the port of entry. So new students and continuing students do not need a hard copy with an actual signature on it. The electronic signature is acceptable.
We have a student who is admitted for fall 2020, but they deferred to fall 2021. When would they be getting an updated I-20?
They would need to, so if they got an I-20 for fall 2020 and they now want to come for fall 2021, we are doing an upgrade right now, but the Icomet portal should be available on Monday. If they submit the visa update e-form, in that e-form, they can request the fall 2021 start date and get an updated I-20.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Dr. Powell. So we've received quite a few questions, but it looks like some of them we've already addressed.
So Norma, let me tell students something that they're always curious about, but nobody ever asks. So so why do we talk about things like galaxy and Orion and comets? Well, first of all, the origins of the University of Texas at Dallas go back to Texas Instruments. And Texas Instruments was heavily involved in the space program in the 1960s. The university really was born in 1969, so we're about 50 years old at this particular point. And so our mascot is something called T-Mock, which is this crazy looking outer space dude with flaming hair, whose name is T-Mock, which happens to be the word comet spelled backwards, because we are comets. That is our that is our, I guess, mascot. So we have a lot of space references here at the University of Texas at Dallas, like Galaxy, which is a system where students go in and check, admit, and check their statuses and that kind of stuff. We have Orion, which is a student-based data system. We have the Icomet portal, which the International Student and Scholars Office uses for international students to report various information regarding I-20s and regarding virtual attendance and late arrival letters and all that kind of stuff. So that's why we're always talking about comets and galaxies and Orion. And people are like, why are you guys talking about that stuff? Well, we're kind of space oriented, so that's the reason.
So I do have a couple more questions. We're a little over 9:30, but I do have a couple that I see as repeats. Since some people from fall 2020 deferred and some from spring deferred to fall 2021, will that affect the amount of new admits that we'll take for fall 2021?
We've been asked that question a lot, Norma. No, it will not affect the number of new admits for fall 2021. There are a lot of programs in the United States where they are cohort-based programs, small cohorts where they might only admit 25 students or 50 students. We are in the top 10 sized graduate programs in the United States. So we don't have that constraint as other universities do. So just because we had students that deferred to fall of 2021, it is not going to decrease the number of new admits that we can offer new admission to for fall of 2021.
Alrighty, that seems to be the common one that I've been seeing. Do you have any closing remarks before we go ahead and end the webinar?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Norma for being a great manager of a multitude of questions coming in this morning. And I want to thank Elizabeth and Corina for being here to answer prospect, applicant, and admitted student questions this morning. Making a decision to attend graduate school is a big decision, but we really are so grateful that you've attended today and that you're considering the University of Texas at Dallas. And we're here to help each and every one of you as you navigate this process. It can be a bit overwhelming to think about leaving your job and coming to graduate school, or traveling, halfway around the world to be here in Texas. And that brings about a lot of questions and concerns. But I will tell you that this is a very special place. And our local students love our global mindset. Our international students love our global mindset. And this is a really special place to be. And we really can't wait to look at all of your applications. We can't wait to hopefully admit most of you and bring you on board to have really an experience of your lifetime. Once you're part of the UT Dallas family, you're ours for life, and we can't wait to make you part of the family. So thank you for attending this morning, and thank you to our panelists for being here. Reach out if we can help. The email address is on the screen. A recording of this webinar will be sent to all of the attendees today. And again, be in touch with us. And in the meantime, we want you to be safe and we want you to be well. And we'll talk with you soon. Thanks so much for being here.